Welcome back to part 2 of How to Amazon Q. In part 1, we created our AI chatbot, so make sure to check out that one if you haven't. As promised, today we'll take a deep dive into the built-in super powerful web scraper. Let's go. So we have our Amazon Q application and we'll add another data source to it, and we'll be able to ask our chatbot questions about anything that's on that website. As an example, we'll use this site, which conveniently has an e-commerce shop example to test web crawlers. So let's click on Add Data Source and select Web Crawler. First, we need to tell it what we want to scrape, and we have 4 different options to do that. We can add up to 10 URLs directly into the console, or up to 100 if we put them in a text file uploaded to an S3 bucket of ours. We also have the option to add sitemaps in XML format directly. A sitemap is a file that contains the layout of a website with all its pages, and a lot of sites provide that. The easiest way is to just add sitemap.xml to a URL, and you get something like this. I'll put a link in the comments as well on how you can find such sitemaps. Again, we have the option to put more sitemaps if we uploaded them in S3, and we can even put them in a zip file to use even more. The next step is authentication. If your website doesn't need that, just skip to the next chapter. We have 4 different options for authentication we can choose from. The first 2 are Basic Auth and Kerberos. If we select them, we can add a secret with AWS Secret Manager directly below. Select Create and Add New Secret. We can then simply add username and password. This will be suitable for sites that don't directly have login pages. So when you navigate to the site in question and your browser opens a little pop-up to put in username and password, it's probably one of those 2. If, however, you have a proper login page, then it's more likely one of the bottom 2. As a rule of thumb, form authentication is right when you can input both the username and password on the same page, as it used to be the standard up until a few years ago. If you have the login name and password on a separate page, it's more likely to be SAML. So if you're unsure, you might need to try it out until it works. We'll cover in a bit how to check the logs to see if anything went wrong, for instance with authentication. With these 2 options, it's a little more intricate to configure the secret. You see input fields to put in the URL to the login page, then login and password as before. And further down, we can put in an XPath for the crawler to find the input field on the website, to put username and password in. You can find the XPath by simply going to the login page in question, opening the developer tools with F10, right-click the input field, go to Inspect, and then on the right side select Copy XPath. You can then just paste the XPath into username field XPath, add password field XPath. Below that, we have 2 more XPaths for the submit buttons, which will be either 1 or 2 steps. An example for 2 steps is the AWS console itself. If you input username, hit the username button, then input password and hit the password button after. In the next step, we can optionally select a web proxy. This will be a server to which our crawling requests will be routed. This can be useful for a number of reasons. Maybe you want to crawl from a specific geolocation. For instance, Netflix will give you a different content catalog depending on which country you're in. Or your website in question may have blocked AWS service in general. In any case, if you choose to, you can simply add in the host name of your proxy, as well as a port, and put a secret for authenticating with your proxy provider. As always, we have the option to set our crawling instances to be within our VPC. Given that we're most likely crawling external sites, and are really only accessing the data via Q, I'm not sure why exactly one would want to do that here, so please let me know in the comments if you happen to know a reason why. And then we have our IAM role as usual. Just creating one is a good choice for most cases. Next are the sync options. We can either just sync the domain we put in, include the subdomains, or include even links on the page we crawled. And we can set the scope as well. The crawl depth denotes the number of levels from the starting URL. So with the standard 2, we would crawl up to 2 links deep. I recommend not setting this too high, or you might accidentally crawl a lot of links that you didn't intend to. The maximum file size is set to 50 megabytes. If you have a specific use case with very large files, you might want to increase this, otherwise leave as is. The maximum links per page and the maximum throttling are a bit more tricky. Set the first one high enough so you get everything you need. Especially pages with infinite scroll may warrant a higher value. The maximum throttle, so the maximum number of requests per host per minute, shouldn't be too high either, or you will put a lot of load on the target server and might get blocked. Including the files that are linked on the web page is an option as well. Next are the crawl URL pattern and the patterns to index. Here you can enter a regular expression or regex that will either include or exclude certain paths. Regex is very powerful in expressing different structures, but more often than not, you probably want something in a syntax like this, with a dot asterisk and then the path. The crawl path on the top are the ones that will be visited by Q and have links extracted from them, while the bottom one will actually be fully indexed, meaning the content will be read into Q. Under sync mode, you can choose to sync fully or only update. My recommendation is to set it to the second one, and only get new, modified, and deleted content. Next, under sync run schedule, you can input a frequency, how often to run the crawler. If the standard options are not enough, you can choose a cron syntax, which allows for more options. If you're unsure about it, I find just asking ChatGPT to create a cron pattern for the schedule I want works perfectly well. Lastly, you can set specific metadata field mapping, such as date of creation, document ID, or document name. This is useful if you want to ask Q about these attributes, such as only give me sources newer than date X, or only give me sources from a specific author. Here's a list of standard attributes that you might want to add. Note that this can only be edited after you created the data source. Okay, so once the sync is started, you can observe the logs in CloudWatch logs. And after a couple of minutes or hours, depending on how much you crawled, you can go to your Q assistant and enjoy the results. Okay, that was it. Feel free to subscribe for more tech news and how-tos. Bye!